Hey there. Welcome into Impact Over Attention. We're here every Monday and Friday at noon to talk about how to make a bigger impact in your business this week instead of just chasing attention around all the time. And we firmly believe that when you focus on making a big impact in your customer and people's lives, that you end up getting the right type of attention to grow your organization. So I am Jake. I'm your host. And I am the founder of Impact Over Attention, where we help cause-driven leaders who have organizations pick the right priorities to grow their business. So I'm a business coach there, and then I'm also the Chief Clarity Officer at Quirk Growth, where we help you convert more of the people who are coming through your messaging, whether it's your website or your email list or your social media platforms. We help make sure that we clarify your message for you. So that's who I am. That's why we're here. And that's why we bring on awesome guests like my friend, Jamie Cohen. So we'll be bringing her on here in a minute. If you were here Monday, you will remember that we were talking about just solving for one thing. And it's a way to be more impactful in your business. And what we talked about was actually Bruce Lee has a famous quote where I'll bring that up here for you. There it is. There it's not. Anyway, point being, the successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. And so when you really concentrate on helping people solve one thing really well, you tend to get a lot more traction. You're seen as an expert. And if you're like me and you're ADD or ADHD or ADHHHHHD, it makes it easier to stay on task and get things done and get where you're trying to go. So that's what we were talking about at the beginning of the week. So now what I'd love to do is bring on my friend Jamie here. And I'm going to try this share thing once again because I want to pump her up because she's amazing. She's someone that you really want to know. You want to know on LinkedIn or Instagram or all the different places she'll tell you about. But she's a communications coach and advisor. And I love her hashtag. She helps you say hashtag the right words. So I don't know about you. That's something that I'm always looking to do is to say the right words, not just in business, but in my relationships and all the different places that you can be looking to say the right things. She helps you do that. And once again, tech's not going to cooperate with me. I was going to share your LinkedIn photo, but you know what? Forget it. Let's just bring her in. Jamie.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good. There it is. Look at that. The right words.
Yes.
Well, Jamie, I called on you because number one, I like having people on the show that I like talking to, and you're one of those people. But number two, when I think of someone who is really focused on making an impact in people's lives, you come to mind. So what is it that you're working on impacting this week in your business, in your life? What's important to you this week?
There are so many things, and I'm glad that you brought up ADHD before because I have ADHD, and one of the hardest parts of that is staying on task and not starting a million things at once because a lot of people, including myself, we have so many interests and so many passions that we want to do it all, but focusing on one thing and honing in or actually homing in on one area is what is going to make things function more efficiently and effectively. So the impact for myself that I am working on this week is getting my website up and running. That is something that I have been saying, I've been working on and saying that I would get launched for the past few years. And I've been lucky to not really need it, but I feel like it's a good step for me and the next step for my business. As far as impacting other people, this on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Clubhouse, I have a room called Communication Power Up, Say It Like This. And for the past couple of months, we've been talking about salary negotiation and interviewing. So I've been, impacting other people by providing a free resource where they can learn the skills that they need to be better negotiators, to learn how to ask questions that unveil certain things about or reveal certain things about a company, and so that they can create the life that they want. Because, we talk a lot about about creating a work-life balance, and working at home, that is more complicated these days. So really finding a place where you can be happy and where you, at the very least, you can be content is what you need to be successful.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of us are striving for that right now. So is there anything this week that kind of challenged you in that area?
Yes. So I know that with the pandemic, a lot of people are struggling, and something that I haven't spoken a lot about myself is mental health. And when we're looking at people on social media, we're seeing their highlight reel. Especially for me, a lot of people will say in the past when I've had issues, they say, "Oh, well, you look fine. Like everything is going well." And you may look fine on the outside, but you may very well be struggling. So one thing that impacts me on a regular basis is if I don't get enough sleep, that really impacts my mental health. And I didn't get enough sleep a couple of nights ago, and then a few things happened yesterday which sent me spiraling. So I lost a whole day yesterday. I wasn't feeling well, wasn't really able to function to the best of my ability. So what I am focusing on, and what I tell a lot of people, is when you have those days, to feel the feelings that you're feeling, but don't beat yourself up about not getting enough done. And that is just one day, and we'll move forward past that. But just like a lot of other people, I have struggles too. And there are certain days where I want to do a certain number of things or want to do anything, but I have my limitations because, I deal with anxiety, and I deal with a bunch of other things that are difficult and complicated, but that's okay.
Yeah, totally. And you and I were actually talking earlier this week about like embracing the weirdness that you are.
Yes.
And like being like,
Yes.
I really like how weird I am. Like it really kind of makes me happy when I think about it, because it helps me, I think, concentrate on the things that I'm really good at when I embrace that. We talked about, when we're too busy trying to like chase all this other stuff off, and spending all that mental energy going, yeah, we're good. And that it just distracts us from the stuff that's really important to us. Right.
Yes. And if you're spending so much energy pretending to be something that you're not, or pretending to feel a way that you don't, that is energy that could have been used toward completing a goal or doing something that you wanted to. But instead saying, hey, I'm having a really bad day today, and the energy that I have, I just need to get through the day. So that's what I'm going to use it for. And I know that, as an entrepreneur, I do have that luxury where if I am having a really bad day, I can just take the day off. I know for a lot of other people who are working for companies who have, and even, when I have deadlines, I don't always have this luxury, but I think it's easier sometimes for an entrepreneur than someone working for a corporation, where if something is really difficult, then you still just have to push through the day. So I am hoping that with everything that's going on, that mental health days are something that become more prevalent at a lot of companies. And I know that they are. I've seen it, but I want it to be something that becomes ubiquitous, and not just the hot new trendy thing that a few companies are doing.
This is why I love bringing people on, because I had one thing in mind I wanted to talk to you about, and it went another place, and I love it. So obviously companies could be a lot better about giving mental health days, or even mental health breaks just during the day, and like encouraging them, right, to please walk away from your desk, walk away from your office, walk away from your couch where you work, wherever that is, right? Walk away. How do you think that people can be more deliberate about creating that for themselves versus waiting on the company to do it for them?
It's all about creating boundaries and communication, but the thing is that you can be an expert in creating boundaries and an expert communicator, but you still do need that support from your company. And there is this idea, and I've heard so much, and a lot less lately, which is good, that you should leave whatever is troubling you at the door when you come to work. And that's not that. I don't believe that should be the case. I don't believe in emotional dumping. So if you're having a hard day, it's not your boss's job or your coworkers' jobs to support you fully and help you get through that. But it should be it should be part of normal life that you could talk to your boss and say, hey, I'm having a really rough day today. We don't need to get into the details, but I'm struggling. So I want to let you know if I seem a little off or if I'm a little slower getting what I need to get to you. It's not because I don't want to, it's just because I'm struggling a little bit right now. And that should be seen as a strength rather than like, oh, well, if this is something that this person's doing on a regular basis, maybe we should reevaluate their importance to the company.
Right. And Rebecca, how's it going today? Ann Small, hi, good to see you. Sylvia, fantastic. Got that new client this week. So happy for you. Good to see everybody. If you have any thoughts about mental health, put them there in the comments. Jamie and I would love to talk a little bit more about if you have questions or comments or something that you've been dealing with this week that maybe talks about mental health, or I'm going to move on now, Jamie, into kind of that right word stuff. That's a little intimidating to me sometimes to think, gosh, I want to come up with the right words. How do you, like, am I wrong in thinking that? Do I just need to get past that?
That is something that a lot of people deal with. And I know that a lot of people struggle with finding the perfect words, and that's sort of the antithesis of what I preach and what I teach. It's not about finding the perfect words. It's not about walking into the room and saying the perfect thing and everyone thinking, wow, this person is such an amazing speaker, or whatever it is they may think. It's about you, and it's about the connection rather than the result. So we get really attached to the result of what we're saying. So we say, I want to say this, and this is the result that I'm expecting. But when you are when you're very outcome attached, you get disappointed a lot. But instead, if the focus is, I want to make sure that the person that I'm speaking with feels heard, I want to make sure that I get my point across, but in order to do that, I need to make sure that we're on the same wavelength. So when you're focusing on trying to say the perfect thing, you set your expectations so high that inevitably you're not going to meet them. Right. So instead of saying like, oh, I want to make sure that I say the right thing, I don't want to offend anybody, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, give yourself some grace and say, no matter what I say, if someone's feelings can be hurt, they will. If someone can be offended, they will. So my goal is to do the best that I possibly can to make sure that everyone feels included and connected. And so rather than working on saying the perfect thing, I'm going to ask questions to determine how this person or these people can best receive the information that I'm going to share. And then I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. And this is something that is complicated for a lot of people, because then that can cause people to start apologizing a lot, or creating justification statements where they say something and, I don't know if that really makes sense or if I'm right, but I'm just trying. And taking just out of the language is important, and removing that justification, and instead allowing to simmer in that silence. If you say something and the response isn't what you anticipated, start asking questions. So you say something and you can say, well, it seems like you need a little time to think about this, or is there something that I can help clarify?
Mm-hmm. So when I went through therapy, my therapist told me that I paint with words, and I like to discuss things to get to solutions versus come with the solution that I've thought about for over and over. And so when I'm trying to find the right words, found out that, I can be not necessarily offending people, but like maybe confusing the matter if they don't realize that that's my communication style. And so we're all wired a little differently in how we communicate. So what would you say to someone that maybe has a different communication style than you, so that you guys can find a spot that you can have a more impactful conversation?
Well, it depends on the situation. If you are talking, it's different if you're talking about a partner in a business, a romantic partner, a coworker, your boss. But let's talk about work first. If you are starting a new job and you notice that the way that they communicate is a little bit different than you, you're not really understanding if people are being sarcastic or if they're angry or this and that. Just having a conversation with them and saying, hey, when I'm sharing information this way, this is what I mean. And I wanted to be clear up front. And if you ever have any questions, or if I can do a better job of explaining what I'm saying, please let me know, because the most important thing to me is that we are working together. And I want to make sure that what I'm saying is understandable to you. And if you're working with a boss, talking about the way in which you communicate, which I know this is kind of general. It's on a person by person basis, but the best thing that you can do is explain how you communicate and why you communicate that way. So for you, Jake, if you've heard that you can be very another way that people talk about painting with words is using very floral language, or very inflated diction in writing is what you would call it. So you use a lot of words that like sound great together and paint this beautiful picture, but sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to get to the point. So on the one hand, what I would do is work a little bit on being more concise. If that's something that you've heard again and again, that's something that anyone could do to help facilitate a stronger communication. Another thing is just while you're doing more listening than speaking. So when you're speaking to someone or when someone's speaking to you and they're making a request, you have to understand what their request is, but also what their motivation is. So if a boss is in a meeting and they're getting really fired up, their request is that this project get done, and their issue is that we missed a deadline. So their motivations are a number of things. One is that they're feeling embarrassed. Maybe they were embarrassed for the team, for themselves, in front of the client, and they don't want that to happen again. And they want to understand why, if everyone was given the information that they needed, why this didn't happen. So their motivations are to sort of quell their anxiety, but they're not necessarily sharing that with you. What they're saying is, what you're seeing is that they're upset. They wanted this project to be done on time. They don't understand why it was. So I'm sharing a lot of information here, but you want to avoid managing someone's emotions and instead asking the right questions so that you're able to share information in the right way. And I know that's kind of going around the question a little bit, but the best way that where you can meet someone in the middle with your communication styles is by listening, seeing how do they communicate, understanding how is that different from the way I communicate, sharing, and then watching their response. How are they responding to the things that I'm saying? Can I do this in a better way? And then the number one thing is, when you are in any situation, providing context is so important. Conflict always arises when there is a lack of context. So being clear and focusing on, am I providing enough context so that what I'm sharing makes sense? So that's a lot of different things, but those basic tenets will be really helpful in any situation that you're in when you're dealing with lots of different communication styles. So just listening so that you can understand the motivations of the people that you're speaking with, checking in with yourself to make sure that you are explaining things in a clear and concise way, asking questions to make sure that people understood what you said, and then also creating space to allow people to process if they do happen to retain or take in information differently than you do.
Right. And so I'm going to put this back up. Anne says, how do you suggest we say something when we're off at work with clarity? Kind of like I think you were alluding to earlier, just having an off day. I don't like excuses, so I'm not sure the best way around it. So I like what you said. Number one, like, if I were to answer that question, I would say we want to listen when we're having off days, because I feel like for me, when I'm having an off day, my ears are closed as much as my brain's foggy, right? I'm just not even hearing things too. So you're just kind of the whole levels down. So listen better, ask more clarifying questions. And I think when you do that, you can offer a response that's much more concise, because you've just gathered all the information you need to just respond and not get into a conversation if you don't need to today, if it doesn't require additional conversation. What do you think about that?
I think that's great advice. And there is a fine line between excuses and explanations. So keeping it short and sweet is the way to go. And if you're having a severely off day and you know that that's going to negatively impact your work, it's not making an excuse, it's clarifying why things are going this particular way. But what you can also do is come in with solutions. So regardless of what you're doing at work, the best result you'll always have when you go to your boss is coming in with solutions. So coming in and saying, hey, I'm having a really off day. And if you notice X, Y, and Z, that is the reason. What I'm going to do is today, and this connects to exactly what you just said, Jake, is I'm going to focus on listening more today and putting things together on the back end versus having more phone calls or conversations or this and that. So if you notice on a call that I'm quiet, I am just taking the information in and giving everyone else the space to share their whatever it is they're working on, and I'll be doing extra work on the back end to make up for what I don't feel able to do today.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Jamie, if we were to just leave somebody with a high impact tip around communication, just for the rest of the week, what's something simple that comes to mind that you think people could gain from just by being a little bit more impactful in their communication today?
Focus more on the other person. If anxiety starts to build when you focus so much on saying the perfect thing and doing the perfect thing, but if you can focus on what can I say to best support this person that I'm speaking with, or to best share information in a way they're going to be able to receive it, that is going to be the most helpful thing. And you can do all of that by listening and asking questions.
Awesome. Well, I know you mentioned something that you had been giving away earlier when we were talking. I don't know if that's something that's still available and you want to put in the comments for people if they want to grab that, or where they can find you. Where can they come connect with you?
Sure. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, I have a room on Clubhouse where I share free tips on how to negotiate your salary more effectively and interview more effectively. This is something that I do with paid clients, but because years ago I wasn't able to get a job for a big stretch of time, I created this room as something that I wish I would have had. And through it, I've helped thousands of people learn about communication skills, and interviewing and salary negotiation have helped over 40 people land jobs, increase their salaries. So if you are interested in learning some of those skills and maybe not buying a course right away, this is a great place to get that information. If you would like to connect with me, you can find me always here on LinkedIn. And I can type that into the comments so that you can find, you can also click on my name. I've commented here a couple of times, but it's linkedin.com/in/Jamie-Cohen. And you can also find me on all social media at Jambalaya.
Definitely type that in. And then what's your username on Clubhouse?
That is Jamie Cohen. So I will also I'll put that in here too. And make sure that you spell Jamie correctly. It's spelled like Jaime. A lot of people spell my name wrong. And if you do, you won't be able to find me. So it's Jaime.
Wouldn't that be a shame? Man,
yes.
I know it would be. So Jamie, thank you for joining us today. So happy to have you. Thanks for sharing a few things. That's it. We try to keep it short and sweet here on the live cast. So anything else you want to send us off with?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for having me. And also on Fridays, I have a series called Find Me Friday, where I have people pitch themselves and invite people on LinkedIn to practice their pitch in the comments. And if you pitch yourself every week, then you could be featured in your very own episode of Find Me Friday. But today's feature is Jake Jordan. So you definitely want to pop over there. I usually post it in the late afternoon so that you can catch him giving his awesome pitch, and then connect with people all over the world. People have gotten jobs, found clients, found employees, gotten on podcasts, filled up their podcasts. So it's a great place to connect with people from all over the world.
Love it. And I'm going to throw up a slide here. What I have going on right now is I have a group, an accountability group that you can be a part of. But if you just want to figure out where you're at, if you want to understand what the next priorities for your business are, this is a completely free quiz you can go take over on the Quirk website. I'll put that back up real quick so I didn't last very long. You can see the short link right here, bit.ly/Quirk-resources. And then you can literally, out of it, it gives you 5 categories, and you can find out where you need to work next, because it'll tell you where you're short or where you have need to spend some more time. So that is all we have for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back Monday at noon Central. And Jamie, thanks again for being a part of the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, y'all.